the generals at the time, they were trying to come up with a plan, okay, on what they shall do in order to justify a war against Cuba, or how can we remove Fidel Castro from power? And so they came up with lots of different plans, and proposals for this. But one of their proposals was that they were going to send the mafia against the Cubans and against Fidel Castro. They would have the mafia assassinate Fidel Castro. So, but then you have this revelation that okay, well, obviously the U.S. government, instead of arresting the mafia, they're actually utilizing criminal organizations such as the mafia to carry out international assassinations at this high level. So they knew that the mafia was upset that Fidel Castro were shutting down all of their casinos and things and operations that they had in Cuba. And so they proposed that they utilize, manipulate the mafia and pay the mafia in order that it takes care of the dirty work of the United States. So this kind of it makes the United States really like part of the mafia, makes them mafia too, because they're utilizing the mafia, makes them criminals as well. So that was something which is very controversial. Another one of their plans was that they were going to try to utilize, um, for example, ex-lovers of Fidel Castro to put poison in his drink in order to assassinate him. At one point, they had proposed um, using chemicals to alter the body of Fidel Castro, causing his hair to fall out and causing him to grow breasts in order to embarrass him on the public stage and to take away this kind of macho man image that he had. So he'd lose his mustache and his hair and all this stuff, and then he'd just be a bold man with breasts, so to speak. So there were these crazy plans, and it's quite interesting that they were talking about doing things like this in the 1960s. But I think their most controversial proposal came in the form of what we find in this project called Project Northwoods, and in it they basically said that the U.S. public would not support a war against Cuba, all right? Just by means of us declaring that it's a threat. The world also would not support that or allow this type of aggression against an independent country, right? Because they're Cubans and now they're carving out their own destiny. It's not for another country to interfere in that. And so they wanted to kind of garner the support of the American public while um, fending off the criticism from the rest of the world. So they said that the only way that we can achieve this, the only way that we would be able to invade Cuba, remove Fidel Castro, right, and put our troops on the ground over there, is if we basically make a false flag operation. Okay. All right. And so they came out with various proposals for the false flag operation. One of them is that they would take Cubans that were friendly to the United States. So they're basically like Cuban citizens that are agents of the United States that are anti Fidel Castro, and they would make them on camera attack a U.S. base that exists on Cuban soil, which is Guantanamo Bay. Then they would say, oh, look, Fidel Castro and his troops are attacking us. So they would dress dissidents, Cuban dissidents, agents of the United States, as Fidel's soldiers and have them launch attacks against a U.S. base. And in that stunning admission, we realized, and the American public realized, and the world realized, that the U.S. not only had the ability to lie, but it had the ability to stage events that are not true. It had the ability to actually attack its own assets. And not only that, but they came up with proposals in the project uh, of blowing up like US Navy ships in the region. Whoa. And not only that, but the project proposed as well that there be a hijacking of a US plane, and that the plane be hijacked and then destroyed or blown up. And here's the most stunning part, is that they proposed in there that they have Cubans who are agents, right? Posing as Cuban terrorists, and they would make them land on the soil in Florida and Miami, Florida, and also in Washington, and start attacking US citizens in a terrorist attack in order to cause the rest of the country to rally behind the United States and justify its invasion of Cuba. That is crazy. I mean, personally, I wasn't aware of what was in Project Northwoods when you first mentioned it, so to me, that as a US citizen, that's extremely shocking. And I think many Americans actually are still unaware of this particular declassified document. And it just makes me think, okay, this was stuff that was proposed. Uh, the door to anything is open now because that trust is broken. They have no qualms with attacking their own people in order to use it as a means to an end, which is their overall agenda. Uh, so as a US citizen, that really, I mean, that breaks my trust in the government, you know. And I'm 100% sure that it has escalated from there in the generations that have passed since that time. Yeah, so that's the idea, right? Like, is that people, they began to think to themselves, okay, well, this is crazy. Like, what can I believe now? The US government is capable of doing anything. Hey, now, the project itself was refused by John F. Kennedy. There was a bunch of generals, like 5, 6 of them, that they signed off on this project. They all wanted to go through. They just needed the signature of the President of the United States, and then it would take place. JFK, he looked at it. He was in agreement and alignment with them that he wanted to assassinate uh, Fidel Castro, which is illegal. He wanted to also invade Cuba, which is illegal. He just disagreed with them on the means. He was worried that this plan be exposed and he would be destroyed politically, right? And that it would be a great big scandal. So he declined signing off on it, and it was just JFK's signature that came between this plan being implemented or not, right? Now, this plan that wasn't implemented, it was declassified, and it makes you wonder how many classified documents still exist in the United States archives or governmental archives that hold within it secrets, and lies of the US government that they would never perhaps release to the public, or they'll only release to the public many years down the line when it's already too late and it doesn't matter anymore. The people began to naturally think of the events that were taking place in 9/11